Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Update from the Ukrainian front. I got a Ukrainian and a Russian article, and as always Ukrinform and Sputnik. See what they can tell us about what's going on over there. So we're going to start with Ukrinform. It is from today, March 13th, 2023, and this is the evening update from 7:48 p.m. Kiev time. Ukrainian troops repel Russian attacks near 4 settlements in Bakhmut direction. This is usually the title, and then the update is below. So this is how the Ukrainian update looks, all this article going down, and then this is the Russian update with all these bullets that you just push and select, and then they tell you whatever they are going to tell you. So let's go back to the Ukrainians. So in Bakhmut direction, the armed forces of Ukraine repelled Russian attacks in the areas of 4 settlements. Fighting in Bakhmut town is ongoing. All right, so this is what these guys are saying. They're going to tell us more below. And then I'm going to go to see what the Russians are talking about regarding Bakhmut. So as noted during the day, the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine launched 10 strikes on Russian personnel and military equipment clusters. Meanwhile, the Russian aggressors continue to focus their main efforts on offensive operations in Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Marinka, and Shakhtarsk directions, and keep trying to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Now this is something that they nowadays it's like a by default. So let's see the Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Marinka, Shakhtarsk. So that is in this area right here. This is the area. This is Luhansk. This is Donetsk, and where you have here the black bullets here, if you select them, they're going to tell you what happened face to face. These are where the troops are engaging one another. The yellow rockets here, probably the Russian shot down some drones. Let's say Russian air defense has shot down a Ukrainian drone. Let's go to the, let's say to this one. It seems like this is one of the worst locations for the Ukrainians. They announced a general retreat from Kupiansk, and let's see what's in Masyutovka. Forces of the Zapad group struck Ukraine Air Forces units in the course of the active combat operation using artillery strikes. The Russians name cities differently than the Ukrainians. For instance, this could be this, but in Ukrainians call it differently. Like for instance here, Kharkov is the Russian name for Kharkiv, which is Ukrainian name. As Artemovsk, which is Bakhmut, is right here, and it's getting encircled, that's for sure. All right, so let's go back to the Ukrainians. During the day, the Russians launched 29 airstrikes, 6 missile strikes, and more than 10 MLRS attacks. In particular, the enemy launched a missile attack on a vocational agricultural lyceum in the village of Sumy region, killing 1 civilian and injuring 5 more. The invaders also fired 2 rockets at a school. Okay, this is schools and all that. Ukrainians start their update by starting from north, from Chernihiv Oblast, and then they go Sumy, Kharkiv, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and then Kherson. So let's see what these guys are saying. In Volyn, Polisia, Sievershchina, and Slobozhachina directions, the operation situation has not changed significantly. During the day, Russian troops shelled the areas of Chernihiv region, Kharkiv region, and Sumy region. So the Russians shelled these areas. The Russians don't show anything here. The only thing that they show is right here, but we don't have but only this red bullet these are where the Russians shelled. So let's see. Forces of the center group struck Ukrainian Air Forces troop and military equipment using artillery strikes. But this is right here in Luhansk, already Donetsk, this area. It's not in Kharkiv or Sumy or Chernihiv. So these guys are just, the Ukrainians are at Chernihiv, Sumy, Chernihiv region, and Kharkiv. Now in Kupiansk and Liman direction, so they are dropping a little bit south. The Russian army tries to break through the defense of the Ukrainian troops. So they are talking about this area right here. This is where Liman is. And this area somewhere. By Izium, Liman. Oops, I'm just going. So they're talking about this area here and this north by Izium this way. All right, so let's go back to the Ukrainians. Kupiansk and Liman. The areas of Kupiansk, Kromalne and Kharkiv region and Bilohorivka and Luhansk region came under enemy fire. So they say it's just fire here. The Russians just shelled the area. Now the Russians say something else. So let's say what they say here. They say that Zapad group struck Ukrainian Air Forces, armed forces units in the course of the active combat operations using artillery strikes. Then we go to this one. The same. So the same thing here, artillery strikes, and then go down here. The same thing, these three here. Next one is going to be Bakhmut, which is right here. They're going to talk about Bakhmut, but the Russians are calling it Artemovsk. In the Bakhmut direction, the enemy keeps trying to capture the town of Bakhmut. Enemy attacks were repelled in the areas of, and including these two here that I know you find them on the map, Shasir Yar and Ivanivske. Fighting continues in Bakhmut. So they're trying here, Sharsov Yar. You see, Sharsov Yar is the Russian name, and the Ukrainians called it Shasir Yar. And Ivanivske is a little village west of Bakhmut, but you don't see it here because it's not that big, around here, somewhere here. So let's see what the Russians are talking about. Artemovsk, this is Bakhmut. Fighting is taking place in the city. That's it. Beat it. All right, thank you. And it says that in particular, Bondarne, they give you a few settlements here. They say in Donetsk region came under enemy shelling. Now they go a little bit south, in Avdiivka, Marinka, Shakhtar's directions. So these are below. So Avdiivka, Marinka, and this is Vuhledar. So they're talking about this area right here. The Ukrainians are saying that Russian troops carried out unsuccessful offensive actions. Areas of more than 10 settlements located near the contact line suffered from enemy strikes. And then let's see what the Russians are saying. Let's say Avdiivka. Fighting is taking place on the city's outskirts. In Marinka, fighting is taking place in the western part of the city. Nothing changed here. Fighting is taking place in the city's outskirts. Forces of the Vostok group hit Ukraine armed forces units using artillery, operational and tactical air strikes. Now all these things, the blue things, are where the Ukrainians shelled. So let's see. Ukrainian forces fired 5 shells at the village. Let's see this. They're gonna play. Ukrainian forces shelled the Kievsky 3 districts. Over there they fired 33 shells at the city. So they're shelling. And now we're gonna move to this area, which is Zaporozhye Oblast, and then here is Kharkiv. Kherson. Kherson, and this is Zaporozhye. It didn't sound right. I said, what the hell? All right, let's see what these guys are saying. The enemy defends itself in Zaporozhye and Kherson directions. And it says more than 30 settlements in Kherson direction, including blah, 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 blah. Kherson itself and the Dniprovsk came under enemy fire, so shelling. Meanwhile, Russian troops continue to suffer losses. It was established that 150 Wagner Group mercenaries were brought for treatment in Belovodsk district hospital in the temporary captured territory of Luhansk region. Let's see what the Russians are saying about Zaporozhye. So in Zaporozhye we have here, these are shelling by the Russians. Let's see what they say. Forces using operational, tactical, aviation, and artillery strikes. This one using the same. They struck Ukraine armed forces using operational and tactical aviation. Here probably is a drone that the Russians blew. Okay, yeah, Russian air defense shot down a Ukraine drone. And we go to Zaporozhye. Again, it seems like the Russians don't do much in Zaporozhye. That's the only attacks they did. The rest, the blue, is the Ukrainians, and these are attempts with drones that, according to the Russians, they shot them down. Now, what happened in Belgorod, right here in the north? Belgorod governor said that Russian air defenses shot down 4 rockets over Belgorod and the Belgorod region. The wreckage damaged 2 private houses. A civilian was wounded. The wreckage. I think the missiles or the rockets, though, not the wreckage. All right, let's see what else these guys say here. According to the General Staff, the shortage of skilled workers is growing catastrophically at the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant in the temporary occupied town of Enerhodar. I don't believe this, because the Russians have this kind of workers. It's like, oh my God, we don't have them. When I talk about they build the nuclear weapons, nuclear power plants, they have them. So, and then they say here, while the invaders employed people without appropriate education, oh my God, they're all geniuses over there, and experience at the nuclear power plant, the contract term of Rosatom representatives expired. They were not offered a new agreement because they have their own men, or an extension of the current one. Well, they are neither allowed to return to Russia, as someone needs to work at the nuclear power plant. All this can lead to unforeseen consequences. Okay, yeah, all right. Do you mean like a regular functioning of a nuclear power plant? So remember, the Russians are very tight-lipped when it's about talking about telling us giving us any updates. The Ukrainians are a little bit more general, which I like being in general. I don't like it to be too detailed. Nothing basically happened over there, aside from shelling from both sides. And in Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Liman, Vuhledar, and Marinka, they are fighting in the street. Nothing changed in Bakhmut. I made a video earlier today. They are fighting in the city, in the center of the city. That's where they are. And the Wagnerites are over there. Supposedly, they're not over there, but they are over there. The Ukrainians say, and the Americans, or whatever the mass media here, oh, they're done. They withdrew. The Wagnerites, they're not there anymore. Now these guys say, well, we killed a lot of them over there. All right, well, whatever you say. Both sides lie, that's for sure. So we gotta just see a pattern here and the map showed a few things over there, but again, it comes from the Russians. You don't know what's true. You'll find, from time to time, they give you this, and then you find out after 3 days, actually, it was not quite so. The update, both sides. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.